Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are looking at the continuation of the attempt to solve the issues of this otherwise incredibly lovely Necchi Supernova Ultra. When I say otherwise incredible, I mean it's just aesthetically it almost could pass as new, and this happens occasionally. I come across these. This was not a rescue. This is a machine that belongs to someone who has gotten machines from me before. And anyway, they were having issues with the straight stitch adjustment. And I have been going through and realized, if you saw the earlier video, that the motor had been tilted in a strange direction. It was not level. And that was because of this. Now this, what you see me holding, is the belt that was on it. Someone had replaced the belt, and this is what is called a lugged belt. You see these a lot for sale. They're generic belts. You can get them online. You can get them in sewing shops. And they're generally good belts. They're called lugged because of the little teeth that you see on the inside here. They're made of some sort of urethane synthetic material. That's about all I know. They are pretty durable. However, you can also get rubber belts like you could back in the day. And I have one today to show you, and I'll explain why. So this is the belt. This belt is 14 5/8 inches, okay, or 14 1/2. It was too long. It was way too long, even when I put the motor in the lowest position I could to extend any tension on the belt, wasn't going to work. So even though the belt's in good shape, if it's not the right size, it's not going to work. And because someone tried to make the belt work, or maybe the belt got stretched, either way, it was causing other problems with the machine. Thankfully, I don't believe, fingers crossed, I don't think the machine was damaged, but it was not functioning. And so I went in. I knew something was wrong, and I was looking, I took this side view because I can get a nice view of the mechanism for the stitch length, and thankfully the mechanism's not cracked or broken. That's a good thing. But unfortunately, the belt was not the right size. You just never know until you go into a machine and take a look. So I went today by a local sewing machine dealer, and they also do repairs. They have they have great service there, and they have a lot of parts that they sometimes will sell. Now, they have, not sometimes, they will sell parts if they have them. And this belt, they had, this is the rubber belt. Now, the rubber belt is a modern reproduction of belts that would have been on these machines originally. The lugged belts that you see come out later, I believe, than the 1950s, at least on the Necchi machines. And so the rubber belts are V-shaped, just like the lug belts are, but they are made of a black rubber, and sometimes they will have, a fiber, like a textile fiber woven inside. These are similar to what mechanics back in the day used to put on cars. The old fan belts were made this way. Okay, so what are we going to do? I was able to get a belt that is 14 1/8 inch in length. Now remember, because of the adjustability of the motor, you don't have to have exactly the right length belt, but you still need to be able to get the proper tension in. So I took a chance, right? The belt is not returnable because nobody, the store doesn't want to have to sell a belt that somebody's, put on a machine and maybe got dirty or whatever. So I decided I would try it. If this belt does not fit, then I will go on to my plan B and order one online. I have a supplier at eBay, and I haven't found the rubber belt on eBay, but they have lugged belts, and they're both fine. If your machine does not have a rubber belt, which may last longer than lugged belts, but when I say last longer, we're talking years. You should get years out of your lugged belt. Do not be self-conscious if you have a lugged belt. They're great. I buy them and I put them on machines all the time because I can't always find the rubber belts. It's not a huge deal. But if you can get a rubber belt and you're willing to pay a few more dollars, I think they have plenty of grip and they will last quite a while. So, what do we want to do? Anytime you want to put a belt on, okay, always, I have my cotton swabs. You all are Anyone who knows this channel knows that I go through more cotton swabs than just about anyone. So what you want to do is, I'm going to do it at this angle, so hopefully you can see more than my knuckles here. Let me zoom in and I'll show you what I'm doing. There are two surfaces you always want to make sure that are clean. And those surfaces are the two pulleys that your motor belt runs on. One of them is this little tiny pulley right here that is attached to a shaft that goes through the motor. And I'm holding my cotton swab that I have dipped in 99% isopropyl alcohol, and I'm just going to turn. I'm holding the cotton swab in the pulley valley, or the crevice of the pulley, and just hold it. You know, it actually wants to stay put. You do not have to push really hard here, okay? Just hold it there and it's going to be fine. And I'm going to look to see, and there's not much dirt. This is one of the cleanest old machines I've ever seen, but you don't know. All right, and sometimes there could be oil on the pulley, you may not see it, so don't just eyeball it. Go ahead and do this, and if you don't get anything on your cotton swab, good for you. If not, you will know you've cleaned it. So I'm going to take the other end of the cotton swab, and remember, the other pulley, we don't always call it a pulley, but it's the hand wheel. The hand wheel is a pulley. Now, you will notice if you have a hand wheel that is either nickel plated, or in this case, this is a gorgeous aluminum. This is I have no idea how much it cost the Italians to make this back in the day. But anyway, I am using alcohol because you can do that on nickel or chrome plated pulleys or hand wheels parts, and you can do it on aluminum. Do not use alcohol of any kind if you have a black, or excuse me, it doesn't have to be black. If you have a painted hand wheel that is not the earlier black machines, but if you have a painted hand wheel, you can use a very diluted, at least 50-50 water alcohol, or even less alcohol. Or you can just use a mixture of soap and a little dishwashing liquid and water, and then come back and rinse it. But if you have a classic vintage machine that has a black finish, do not put alcohol on it in the pulley, because it'll strip the paint, folks. The finishes on vintage machines, especially the black machines, it can happen to other colors too, but with black machines, it is they are extra delicate. They're very beautiful, but extra delicate when it comes to solvents. Okay, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just turning the hand wheel, and I'm holding and I'm barely picking up anything. I've put the cotton swab down into the groove of the pulley, and there are also sides of the pulley here. If you look closely in the light, you'll see that there's sort of like a bevel that kind of bevels up out, so you can even take the cotton swab. I like these cotton swabs. I don't like the ones with plastic stalks, because it just puts more plastic in the world and they don't bend easily. I like the ones that are sort of, paperboard of some sort, because I can control them and bend them more easily. And I'm bending it, applying light pressure upward toward the outer rim, just to make sure, there's nothing there. I've gotten there's almost nothing. So, but your hand wheel could be covered in filth. Who knows? All right. Now, what are we doing next? We're going to make sure, because I'm going to be reassembling the hand wheel, because I actually want to do that. I'm going to be attaching, however, my belt, my new belt, to the hand wheel. But before I do, since we have everything off here, might as well show you this. Necchi sewing machines from this period. This goes actually back to the BUs, the BU Novas, the BU Miras, the Supernovas, Supernova Automatica, Supernova Ultra. Quite a few of those have grooves in their hand wheel. This, just think about the expense it took to make this. And inside that groove is a wick. Now this wick is in great shape, and so I'm just going to use it. You can get new wicking to replace yours if yours is, gotten really tired. So what am I doing? I'm going to, let's see, get a little bit more zoom here for you. there. And you can see that groove. I'm just going to take sewing machine oil, just put a couple of drops. You know, you want to make sure that the wick is saturated. You don't need to flood the actual opening of the hand wheel with oil. You can put maybe one drop on this side, another drop on this side, and you should be fine. That's going to coat the drive shaft when we put the hand wheel back on. So the Italians had a fancier hand wheel, but it's not hard to put back on as long as you know what's here. What are the parts? What are we dealing with? And what order do they go in? This is a good sort of approach with any vintage sewing machine, and certainly this Necchi here. Okay, so what are we doing? We've got to get, I'm going to check on the inside of my hand wheel here to make sure. You may notice sometimes when you're adding sewing machine oil and you're trying to overhaul a machine that you may need to mop up a little bit of excess, right? You normally don't have this problem when you're doing regular maintenance oiling, but this is, you know, I'm going through and overhauling this machine. I'm giving it a conservation. Now, what are we doing next? What do we have here? On the inside of this machine is, you see, this is, of course, the shaft, the drive shaft, and at the end of the drive shaft is a rim, and that rim holds, or you press against that rim, this lovely steel washer. Now, when you take your hand wheel apart, all of this comes off as a set of loose parts, so be extra careful. Notice I've got fabric, I've got my blanket. You always want to protect your machine and the parts themselves. You don't want them to scratch or damage. So just take the extra time. It took me, you know, virtually no time to do this. Now, this washer, I'm going to put one drop, just maybe 2 drops, and you're not flooding this washer with oil. You basically want a thin film of oil, right? So I'm just going to take my cotton swab and just sort of spread it around. It's not like, it's not dripping with oil, and it doesn't need to. You just want to distribute it really quickly there. And I'm going to take it, and I'm going to put that washer right up against where it came from. Now, in order to understand this, you have to know it was there. Sometimes a washer will stick and you won't even know you have a washer. So make sure that the washer is there. The washer is not there just for fun. It is intended to be there. Do not leave it out. It is an important part of this assembly. All right, now what do we have? Well, the next thing that's going to go on, now some of you sometimes will say, well, I'm going to put a drop or 2 right on the shaft. You can, but I just did, but it's not that necessary because remember, we have oiled the inside of our hand wheel. Now, before the hand wheel goes on, I am going to go ahead and attach my lovely new belt. I have a clean hand wheel. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that because when this hand wheel is on, it looks very nice and flush, but you can't access the belt because the Italians were paying a lot of attention to aesthetics, and I understand why. Italian design is legendary for, you know, they win awards very often, and for good reason. All right, so I'm letting the belt sit on the groove, and I'm going to push my hand wheel back. Now, the reason it didn't seem to want to go, there it goes. Now it's fully back. Why? Because this belt is new, and if your belt is new, it's going to sort of spring around. So you have to kind of help the belt, you know, learn where it's going to be. So again, if it's, you know, when it was hanging out, it's because the belt was trying to sort of get between the wheel and the body. Okay, so that is where the belt goes. Now you can take. It's probably easier to actually do this with this center piece that goes on the hand wheel. Just put 1 drop here and maybe 1 over here. That's it. Good enough. Take your cotton swab and just get a nice even coat. It's very thin. That's all you need. You're not, again, you're not putting oil in a gasoline engine here. All right. Now, this I think I've shown all of you in the past hand wheel clutch washers, and the clutch washer is often it's fairly large. It's the size of a 25-cent piece, and it often has teeth. It will either have two teeth that look sort of like this, or it'll have sometimes three. But this one has one. And no, it's not missing any teeth. It's not. It is supposed to have one. Again, I can put one drop on the inner portion of this lovely, gorgeous piece of metal. I put one on each side. That should be plenty. And now, this piece goes in a certain way. There's a reason that that tooth is there. So if you look closely, you will see, you may notice, I can zoom in here for you, you will see this gap right here. That notch is where that tooth is going to go. And it only goes in that way. It does not go in backwards like that. Okay, it's going to go in this way. Now, if your drive shaft may have stopped anywhere. So the gap could be over here. It could be anywhere in the 360-degree turn. But mine happens to be at, I don't know, 3 o'clock. So that's, you don't need to turn it. Now, notice when I put this on, I want that tooth to line up with that gap. Okay? If I don't, it's not going to seat properly. And you'll know because your clutch adjustment will not work. All right. What do we have left? Well, yes, I haven't touched the belt yet, but that's okay. I want my hand wheel to be back on, and I want it to stay on, because if I'm not careful, you know, if you try to, you say, well, I'm going to leave this on, but the hand wheel is not secure yet, and if you start adjusting the motor and you get distracted, you're trying to adjust the motor and deal with the belt, this hand wheel and all of its assembly can come crashing down and make you unhappy and the machine unhappy. So we're going to avoid that, and the simple way to do that is to simply put the clutch knob, also made of this gorgeous polished aluminum. And again, it did not take a lot of effort to take it off, but let's just put one drop right there, one, and that really is all you need, because as this turns in the threads, it's going to be, it is going to spread that oil around. Now you do have, unlike some of the other machines where you had one set screw, well, of course Necchi said no, we want two. So you have two set screws that you use to secure the knob. Well, actually, the knob, I take that back. I'm sorry. The knob is secured by this large one-piece bolt, but there are adjustments to your knob that you make, and I'll just put oil there just to make sure. Now, I'm going to take my clutch knob, and we'll snug it up, right? And that's it, right? So now the hand wheel is secure. It's not coming off, okay? Again, when you snug up your clutch knob, just turn it until it gives you resistance and stops. Okay, do not over tighten it; it is not necessary, and you and the machine will be happier. Okay, now what do we have? Well, moment of truth here. Is this belt going to be too long? It's not going to be too short, because I know it's longer than the 13 3/4 that most of these were given when they were new. So again, this is an example. Most of the time, many times, vintage sewing machines do not give you a lot of latitude. They like what they like, and they will wait for it. But in this situation, this is an example where there is a range of, and so if your belt is not exact, if it's close enough, it will allow the machine to, the motor has enough range. You see me lifting the motor up and down, right? So that's what I'll do to get the belt on. Now, before I do this, I want to make sure that my hands are clean. If yours are not, it's very easy to get sewing machine oil on your fingers when you're doing all of these things. And I'm fine. My hands are fine, but go and wash your hands. Just do it. If you're trying to follow along with me right now, and you've got a Necchi, you don't want to get oil on your belt, because if you do, then you got to take the belt off. You got to wash the belt, wait for it to dry, and you'll probably have to go in and re-clean your pulley. It's not the end of the world, but you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as they say. All right. So what am I doing? I'm going to get my motor lifted up, get my belt on that pulley, and what comes next? Well, basically I need to adjust the motor and figure out where I want it, where I think it's going to give me good tension, not too loose, not too tight. You know, the Goldilocks approach here. And we're doing it by feel. I don't have a gauge. I don't have a digital thing to give me codes. You know, this is how they rolled back in the day, and that is perfectly fine. And yes, you can do this. It is not hard, and in some ways it's mercifully simple. So let's pivot just a minute here. And now I am going to, let's find a little more light here. I've got some gorgeous natural light, but we're toward the end of the day here, and this might be useful so that you can see the bolts, okay? Because that's where the business is. That's where we go in and say, all right, I need to get this snug down. And remember that the motor slides up and down. The bolts are attached to the motor, and the bracket here, as I've shown when I was taking this apart, the bracket has slots. You don't see them right now because the bolts can go within a certain range with those with this brackets, with the slots in the bracket. All right. So what do I want to do here? I've got my fingers on top of the motor. This is similar to how you would do this on a rear mounted motor, which many vintage machines have. But of course the Italians said, we don't want you to see the motor. We want to hide it and make the machine a piece of sculpture. And they did a great job. And it's fine. We can do it, right? We have a little more cramped here, but it was designed to be done this way. So don't sweat it if you're thinking, if you've never done one of these before. Now, I'm holding this down with one hand, okay? And as I hold it down, what I'm going to try to do next is change the angle here for you. I'm holding it down, and now I'm going to take, normally I use my finger, but in this situation, because of our space, I'm going to use my little, I think this is a crewling tool. I've never done crewling, but it's something I use to get in tight spaces. So I'm going to push, and I'm doing just as I would with my finger, and I'm pushing in, and I want to be able to take the belt and push about 1/4 of an inch inward, okay, give or take. And that should be fine. Now, because this is, an eyeball thing, if you discover that you have gotten your motor belt too tight, that's okay. You can loosen it and readjust. Or maybe you'll get it too loose, right? Because if I come up, right, if I have my motor mounted too high, now I'm, pushing way in. Your goal, as I've mentioned on a number of occasions, what is your goal? Your goal is to make sure that make sure that I've got my motor level, because sometimes the bolts here in the bracket will get a little sticky, so we want to make sure that the motor is level. That's how we got into problems in the first place, if you recall. Now, so I'm pushing down, and again, you do this by feel, okay? So however much pressure I'm pushing down, and then I'm pushing in with the belt, right? Against the belt, excuse me. I think I'm going to switch back. This was a better view for all of you, and me too. So I'm holding the motor, right? I'm pushing down, not all the way, and I'm pushing in, and I'm getting about 1/4 of an inch, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and hold it and start turning these bolts. Of course, I need to switch over my ratchet because I don't want to loosen them. I want to actually tighten the bolts now. Okay, back to where we were. So I'm going to loosen the bolts a little bit more first to make sure that my motor is in its happy place. There we go. Trying to get it. I want to make sure it's level. Okay. This is a very awkward thing to hold, but that's all right. And now I'm going to first try to go ahead and get my bolts turned as much as I can, even with my giant hands and fingers here, because it's just more, it's a little more, it's a little quicker than when I'm going to be turning with my screwdriver. Normally a screwdriver doesn't take this long, but remember we're dealing with a weird space here because now I want to get my motor to be still. So what I might do is try to get the bolt that is closest to me right here snugged up first, because I can reach it, and that'll help keep the motor from bobbing around while I then deal with the back bolt. I don't know if Necchi dealers back in the day had a special tool for this, or if they found this to be as awkward as you will. You will find it awkward, but that's okay. It will work. That's the whole point here. It will work. Sometimes when you're trying to adjust a motor, you want to go ahead and get some tension on the bolts. This is true not only of Necchi's, but others as well. Just looking to make sure I've got good clearance here. I don't want to cause issues with my clearance. I'm going to loosen again. What you will notice is that this, because of the way this bracket is designed, your motor is going to either want to shift to the right or the left, and the goal is to get it relatively level. I mean, not level as in architectural level, but level enough that it is happy to be where it is. The fact that this belt, the new belt, is shorter means I'm not having as much slack to begin with here.